Hello, and welcome to TAS Project Plan for Floating Floors. Inspect to know what to expect. In this presentation, we will outline general tips for success in floating floor installations. Please note, this presentation is not a substitution for specific installation instructions. The first step to success is to read and follow the complete installation instructions. Always refer to the latest version. It's a good idea to check online. After all, manufacturers know their products best, and products do change, so it's important to read the instructions every time. It is also important to read the warranty and maintenance information. The suitability of the product is the responsibility of the flooring contractor. Many factors need to be taken into consideration, such as rolling traffic and commercial applications. The substrate must be soundly constructed, free of dust, dirt, and contaminants. Concrete and gypsum substrates must be a minimum 3,500 psi, unless otherwise specified. Excessive floor movement can cause joint damage. Although difficult to determine what is exactly excessive movement, if you can feel the floor moving when you walk on it, that's an indication that it's not solid enough. Flooring is designed to be installed and maintained in normal room conditions, often referred to as NRC. It is critical to ensure that windows and doors are installed and the HVAC system is up and operational. If the permanent HVAC system is not operational, then temporary heating must be used and maintained 24/7. Often, temporary heating is shut off at night. This is a common cause of joint issues. NRC is most often 35 to 55% relative humidity and 55 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. It is important to refer to the installation instructions for the product you are installing. All products must acclimate to NRC conditions. This includes ambient conditions, substrate conditions, and all flooring products. Always test and document acclimation. Test for ambient temperature and relative humidity, substrate temperature, and flooring material temperature. TAS Flooring recommends the Protometer MMS2. It has all the functions necessary to test all products and all conditions, and the results can be exported to a PC. Temperature can be deceptive. It may feel warm at 5 feet above the substrate, but the substrate can still be cold. Always store material in a climate-controlled area and not in direct sunlight. Do not stack pallets over too high, and allow air movement between them. It is important to remember that acclimation is a measurement of achievement, not a measurement of time. All products must achieve NRC and be maintained at NRC, regardless as to how long they have been on the project. Substrate moisture must meet specifications. Moisture can come from below through vapor transmission, from above through tropical moisture and maintenance procedures, or as residual moisture in the slab. Vapor transmission occurs when there are cold temperatures below the slab and warm temperatures above the slab. This draws moisture through the slab in the form of vapor transmission. Relative humidity refers to the amount of residual moisture in the slab. This moisture must be allowed to dissipate out. Building codes and TAS warranties require that an intact vapor barrier be placed directly below any on-grade or below-grade slabs. There are several methods used to test substrate moisture. RH testing is also referred to as probe testing. It refers to the residual moisture in the substrate. Calcium chloride testing will measure the amount of moisture traveling through the slab in the form of vapor transmission. Electronic meters provide an indication of moisture, but do not provide quantitative results. They are, however, fast and non-intrusive. Pin meters are generally used to measure the amount of moisture in wood substrates. Moisture testing on gypsum substrates makes either probe or calcium chloride testing impractical. TAS flooring accepts a reading of 200 or less on a protometer MMS2. Please note, on gypsum substrates, it is important to test all areas and take multiple readings. Gypsum drying requires heat and air movement. The moist air must be ventilated out of the building. This can be accomplished by cracking windows open or venting outside. Gypcrete can be dry in the living area and wet in the bedroom area. Many times, gypcrete is too wet to install flooring several weeks or even several months after the pour, if proper heat and ventilation were not provided. Floor flatness is critical to success. Most flooring requires floor flatness to be less than 1/8 inch in 6 feet or 3/16 inch in 10 feet. Fill in depressions and grind down high spots, following all safety standards. Floors not in specification can and often do result in joint issues. Always use a minimum 6-foot straight edge. A 10-foot straight edge is best. Use a spacer to slide under the gap to test. For 6-foot straight edges, a simple piece of 1/8 inch VCT can act as a spacer. There are also plastic spacers available with 1/16 inch graduations. It is important that you test in multiple areas and in every room. If a separate cushion underlayment is used, it is important to choose a cushion specifically designed for floating floors. A dense cushion with little to no vertical movement is required. Note that indentation is not warranted, and the minimum thickness for LV is 2.5 millimeters. TAS Flooring recommends power hold reverb underlayment. Extreme prolonged sunlight can, and often does, create issues for installed floors. Most extreme are the new popular floor-to-ceiling windows. Window coverings or some type of covering should be applied in these cases. Check the installation instructions for maximum acceptable floor temperatures. The difference between a protected area and one exposed to prolonged direct sunlight can be dramatic. It can often be 80 degrees in the protected area and up to 165 degrees in the area of direct sunlight. This creates a concentrated area of superheated flooring, resulting in buckling and joint damage. There are several styles of locking mechanisms, such as click and tongue and groove, and there are also variations between manufacturers. Always read the specific instructions for the product you are installing. Many locking mechanisms require tapping the flooring together. Always use a tapping block specifically designed for the material you are installing, or use a scrap piece of the flooring. This will help avoid joint damage when they're tapped together. Floating floors must be allowed to float. Sounds basic, but it's often overlooked. Once the flooring is attached, it becomes a monolithic floor. Even 1 or 2 pinch points can, and often do, result in issues such as buckling, gaps, and joint damage. Common pinch point areas are kitchen islands and cabinets, fireplace hearths, sliding glass doors, and door frames. Keep in mind, if the flooring flows through an area, a pinch point in a bedroom can cause a gap or buckle in the main area. Avoid trim that is fixed to the floor, like sliding closet doors. Floating floors expand and contract. A proper expansion gap must be maintained at 100% of vertical surfaces. If there is any restriction to freely floating, issues can and often do result. Use spacers to ensure a proper gap. When floating floors are not allowed to expand properly, it can result in what's referred to as the dome effect. The flooring cannot absorb the expansion and domes upwards. Common causes of expansion restriction are lack of expansion gap and islands and cabinets installed on top of the flooring. When floating floors are not allowed to contract properly, they can, and often do, result in gapping and joint damage. It usually gaps in the center of the room. Common causes of contraction restriction are islands and cabinets installed on top of the flooring, and door jambs and wall base installed too tightly to the floor. This can also restrict contraction. You should be able to slip a business card or piece of paper between the flooring and the door jamb or wall base. Floating floors have a maximum length and width they can be installed without installing a transition trim, usually a T-mold. Every floor has its own specifications, so always check the installation instructions. There are limitations for maximum length, maximum width, and floor plans that have doorways, passageways, and irregular shaped floor plans. It is important that you consider the entire area, including attached spaces. There are also maximum square footage requirements that a floating floor can be installed without transition trim. There are several styles of trim available to cover the expansion space, such as wall base, quarter round, and or square cap, T-mold, reducers, and stair nose. At door jambs and fireplace hearths, where trim will not be used to cover the expansion gap, undercut to allow material to slide under. Lay a piece of flooring onto the vertical surface with a jam saw laying flat to the flooring, cut through the vertical surface. Remove the cut piece to allow the flooring to slide under. In areas where the gap will be exposed, fill the expansion gap with a flexible caulking, such as 100% silicone. Many of the issues that restrict free floating occur after the flooring contractor is finished, such as installation of islands, counters, base, and door jambs. It is important to inform the other trades as to the requirements of the flooring. Like all flooring, visually inspect for defects during the installation process. It is the flooring contractor's responsibility to call out any visible defective material. Always work in adequate lighting. And work out of at least 3 cartons, shuffling the flooring to avoid repetitive patterns. Cover the installed area with protection material to avoid trade damage. TAS Flooring recommends Power Hold Builder Board, manufactured by Surface Shield. Always use a neutral pH cleaner and do not flood the area. TAS Flooring recommends Taylor Fresh Floors. Please note, additional topical finishes, such as polishes, are not required, not recommended, and not warranted. So there you have it. Project planning for floating floor applications. For a successful installation, inspect to know what to expect. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.